Hello and welcome into today's edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider Podcast. Very early Sunday morning, fresh off of a 34-15 Arizona State Sun Devils victory. And I am your lead beat writer for the Arizona State Sun Devils on SI. And I am so grateful to be joining you tonight in the early hours of the morning. And the Sun Devils put together just the performance that they wanted to tonight or last night. They controlled the pace of the game for the most part, even though Texas State had the slight advantage in terms of time of possession. They still dictated the pace. They imposed their will physically. Marcus Arroyo had a great game script, which I will go into detail in a couple minutes on. The defense stepped up. Texas State did muster 2 touchdowns during the game. Both 2-point conversions were unsuccessful, so they only scored 15 points. But they went just over 300 yards on just around 70 plays, so they were going just about 4 yards a play. So Arizona State did a phenomenal job of defending them. Brian Ward's aggressive scheme really came full circle on Saturday night, last night, and there were a lot of players that made an impact on the defensive side of the ball. So now without further ado, let's get into some of the highlights of the game, some of my general thoughts and takeaways. So let's start with the defense. Jordan Crook, incredible performance from Jordan Crook. He continues to become one of the very best players and one of the leaders of the Arizona State defense. He totaled 12 tackles on Saturday night. He's got 1 sack, 3.5 tackles for loss. That is just incredible. 3.5 of Arizona State's 10 tackles for loss were at the hands of Jordan Crook. They got 5 sacks as a team. Clayton Smith, Albert Smith III, Jacob Rich Kangaika, Keyshawn Elliott, and Jordan Crook all secured a sack in Saturday night's game. Kangaika forced a fumble early on in the game from Texas State quarterback Brad Jackson, and CJ Fight secured a fumble recovery in the fourth quarter. In the second quarter, it was Keith Abney the second that forced a fumble. That was Ghost Rouser secured the forced fumble, which was recovered by Keith Abney. And Abney defended 2 passes. Kendrick Breedlove defended 2 passes, and Miles Rouser defended 1 pass. So the secondary had a very strong outing as well. Abney was probably one of the other standout players alongside Jordan Crook. The defense just looked very just fluid, in sync. Brian Ward's unit is finally living up to the billing that they received when it comes to being one of the very deepest defensive units that have been in Tempe in some time. I was very impressed with what I saw. I'm not going to be too taken aback by what the final score was, because we saw that defense for what it can be. A very uber athletic, uber connected, very deep defense that can create turnovers, that can get into the backfield and disrupt the line of scrimmage, that can get to the quarterback, that can force the quarterback into some bad decisions, even if it doesn't result in an interception. Bend don't break mentality, and it was a bounce back day for the Sun Devil defense. Now I want to talk about the offense. Sam Levitt had his best game of the season to this point. He ran for 59 yards and a touchdown once again, which gives him 4 rushing touchdowns on the season now. And he threw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Just a good performance from him. He got back in his groove. It looks like he's ready to take on a defense such as Baylor in the Big 12 opener next week. And Levitt is just as cool as they come. So we shall see what happens next week, but Sun Devil fans should feel good about this performance from him. Raleek Brown, 1 reception for 11 yards on 1 target, 12 carries for 144 yards and a touchdown, including a 75-yard touchdown rush in the third quarter. The very first play of that drive, he took a counter to the left tackle. He broke it on the outside and was gone. He was gone, and Raleek Brown continues to potentially be the X factor of this Arizona State offense. The ceiling is truly the limit. There is truly no limit to the ceiling of this Arizona State offense. If Raleek Brown continues to play at this level, he's just a superb dynamite athlete. He's very, very just elusive, athletic, deceptively strong. There's a lot to Raleek Brown's game that Sun Devil fans would like to see, do like to see. And even with Kyson Brown returning, Raleek Brown should be a staple in Marcus Arroyo's offense. Jordan Tyson, obviously, there are not enough words to say about Jordan Tyson. He had 2 or 3 very, very pronounced highlight plays during the night that was. And he's a top 10 pick in the 2026 NFL draft if he's healthy. Enough said with him. And Shimon Mateer, I've been asking Coach Dillingham and Coach Arroyo all week about Mateer's performance last week as a blocker. He really generated a lot for Raleek Brown and Kanye Udo last week in Kyson Brown's absence. And Arroyo and Dillingham both hinted that he was going to be a part of the game plan. Well, 6 receptions for 60 yards and a touchdown, including a 27-yard touchdown reception. It looks like they were right about no block, no rock. He blocked and he got the rock the next week. Career high 6 receptions in a game. It was previously 5. And he only had 1 in the first 2 weeks. So now he's up to 7 for the season. And he's on pace for about the same production that he was last season, which probably will get him all Big 12 second team again. Sun Devils are in a great place at the tight end position. That's another takeaway I have. Yep. That takes me into the last part of today's show. So after the game, Coach Dillingham did discuss some injuries. He said that he believes that wide receiver Jalen Moss and running back Kyson Brown would be back next week for Baylor in the Big 12 opener. If it was his guess, he obviously hasn't really talked to the medical staff yet about status of those 2 players, but he said that he believes they should be a go. And from my estimation, I would agree. Kyson Brown was doing a lot of work at practice. It looked like he was moving around pretty well, and that will just add to the layers of strategy that Marcus Arroyo can throw at Baylor's way. Obviously, a defense that has faced its fair share of struggles. So we'll see what happens with Jalen Moss and Kyson Brown. As for Xavier Alfred, Dillingham was a lot more secretive about him. He didn't have a lot to say. He said he wasn't sure, and essentially it's going to be up in the air. So we'll see. Xavier Alford did not practice that much in the past week. I didn't really report on it, but I feel like most media members assumed that he was going to be one of those players that didn't practice much and ended up going on game day, but he just couldn't give it a go. And that is completely fine. Give him time to heal. Don't rush him back. The Sun Devils are going to need him for the stretch run of the season. So, best wishes to Mr. Alford, and Hope that he can get back for Big 12 play at some point, if not this coming week against Baylor. But that's really all I have for today. I feel good about the Sun Devils heading into Big 12 play now. The fans should feel good about the chances to at least contend to repeat as Big 12 champions. And the Sun Devils are back on track. You could be seeing them represented in the AP Top 25 once again come Sunday morning. I believe the poll gets released at 11 a.m. Arizona time. So stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for tuning in today. Your support means everything to me, and I will see you tomorrow.